1002, 1003, 1004, 1005. 1, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, 1006. 1, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, 1006, 1007. This will be a Celtic Cross spread. We're going to start with your present card, then the challenge, which crosses it, the past and the future surrounding it, the above and below framing it, where above represents the conscious mind and the below represents the subconscious mind. And then off on the right we'll have the staff. The staff is a series of external factors, whereas the two crosses are the internal factors. I'll get into a little bit more about the interpretation in a moment here, but there will be the advice card, the external influences card, the wants and fears, or hopes and desires, and fears and hesitations. There's lots of ways you can express it. And then the top of the staff is the outcome. So there's a lot of comparison between the different cards that will give you more of a perspective. But ultimately, what's most important is that during this process, you see the images and you listen to the explanations, and you try to see what parts of yourself internally, as well as what parts of your environment and your situations and your relationships, and how it might be sort of explained or enumerated upon by the thoughts that arise when you watch these things happen. So have an open mind, but don't let yourself get too caught up by the fact that this seems like prophecy. It's more about reading your own internal state through a story, in my opinion. There's lots of ways you can look at tarot cards, but so far that's how I'm kind of looking at it. So, your present moment is a reversed Two of Swords. There we go. So right side up, this is what it looks like. This is an interesting card. I haven't come across it before, but clearly there's the woman with the two swords in hand, crossed and blindfolded. There's the pedestal she sits on, and there's the ocean with the rocks exposed and the moon, signifying a tide that's rising or waning, going out or coming in, one or the other. It's hard to tell. But She's strong and she's in a defensive posture, but she's blind, communicating her vulnerability despite the fact that she seems prepared. So in the subtle interpretation, when it's reversed, your present moment seems to be a woman at the whims of nature's changing, though with her experience and knowledge through the swords, which is the suit represented, has gained her preparedness even in this state of vulnerability. And so, in your present moment, this might be that the natural changes of your life, transitioning from a young adult through college and out of college into the workforce and into longer relationships and possibly marriage and possibly the sort of coursing tide of human life that you follow through our society, and you come to the places you have come to and will come to. And you stand not knowing what's ahead in your blindness, but still ready for it. And so here we have the opportunity in the present moment to take off that blindfold and examine the situation as it really is and reflect upon it with the clarity of truth or the clarity of wisdom. So here you are at the precipice of change. And the challenge to that process is the Four of Pentacles. Four of Pentacles I've seen several times for some reason. So it's a man outside of a city holding these four symbols, coins. The pentacles represent several different things. It can represent creation in a way, wealth, bodily health, a few different things, but ultimately it's something good that people want. And this man here, clearly, the way that he hugs, oh, sorry, I should shove it up a little bit closer. Here's the reverse, and here's the top card. Goes this way. So this is still reversed. As you're transitioning through this point in life, following the course of, I guess, your destiny socially, the challenge in this transition is to avoid the accumulation of things that you become attached to, in the sense that this man, in his holding on to and standing on and balancing of this wealth and materiality, loses his participation with his community and instead sits at the outskirts, unable to enjoy the fruits of his experience. And so if these changes that arise, the careers, the marriage, and various other things, give you access to wealth, here we have the challenge of accumulation. And in your past, there's Justice, who is represented by balance, who's represented with the sword of wit and experience and knowledge. Here you've grown throughout your days with a certainty and an objective concept of reality where things make sense and there's order, there's justice. When things go wrong, they're corrected accordingly by the society, by the internal, by the righteous, by so many different factors, and we believe in it. So here in your past, you believe that things would come to natural balance. And in the future, here we have the Ten of Pentacles, which is wonderful. So the Ten of Pentacles represents the fruition of an abundant cycle. So the 1 through 10 in the tarot decks represent a beginning and an ending in some fashions. It can be a destructive cycle, it can be a creative cycle, depending on the suit, depending on the interpretation, depending on the cards around it. But here, the 10 of Pentacles, and you'll get a chance to see it close up here. Reversed. And upright. It's a beautiful card. The Ten of Pentacles represents abundance in community. It's an abundance in a gate where a city lies. There's a soldier standing guard, a man and a woman crossing paths, 2 dogs aside, an elderly, wealthy man, and a child petting the dog. There's the scales, which are represented on the banner, which is another example of justice in its fruition. And there's the tower, which is in a separate card. And there's another tower, which is in a separate card too. But ultimately, this communicates to me that in this transition, with the challenge, in your near future, you, and this is the near future versus the outcome, seem to be aligned to naturally wind up in a community of abundance where there's richness before you. Maybe you don't see it, maybe it's not immediately available to you, but there it'll be. And so your conscious mind in this situation and in this path may be absorbed with the 9 of Wands. So the 9 of Wands is reversed here, but I'll give close up first. So the 9 of Wands is a man which holds on to a single wand while the 8 others loom over him. He has a bandage on his head, as if he's been blown, and his face is bloodied, as if he's been struck. So he sees the daunting 8 before him, and he clutches on to the one that he has, fearful or protective, or just guarded in general, of the achievements of others, of the competition that surrounds him, of the past of injury, the traumas of a past. Several things can be factored in. So the wands represent desire or passion. And so here we have a man that's sort of lost grip with his passion for fear of the failures of his past exploits, I guess. So as your conscious mind considers that fear of failure, it holds you and prevents you from walking with your full gait and moving toward the things that could be a passionate endeavor. And in your subconscious mind, ooh, hey, more trauma, is the 9 of Swords. So here we have the reversed version of the 9 of Swords. sad card, I'll be honest. Here we have the woman weeping in bed after a dream, and I've come across this card several times too. Her quilt has the flowers and symbols of the zodiac and astrology. On her bed there is a fight in the engraving. She wears white and she covers her eyes out of sorrow or of fear or of weeping. And the 9 swords can represent lots of things. The way that they float in the dark makes it seem as if the after image of a dream haunts her still in waking. So this could be really the subconscious traumas and pains of a life lived with failures and with scary things, and the way that your mind brings those things back up to protect you can sometimes get in the way of waking up and enjoying your place in the world. And so in its reversed state, this is a caution, I guess, that subconsciously you may be prevented from viewing justice clearly in your adulthood and taking part in the community of abundance around you, having your fill of it and sharing it. And so these two together, especially the fact that they're both 9s, sort of shows a resonance between your subconscious and conscious mind, in that you're oriented correctly with your path. So that's good. So it seems like a natural progression of events, frankly. The unknown, avoiding attachment, and the development of fruition. So I guess the advice in this situation is to avoid petty conflict. So this is the 5 of Wands. This is the upright. This is the reversed. So there's 5 men caught in a battle. They all raise their wands at once, and they seem to be engaged in the fight, though none of them seem to be in the process of striking another. It's been pointed out in the past that this could be a mock battle, this could be a performance, or it could just be posturing, it could be a variety of different things, but these diverse people represent viewpoints which contrast with the others. And so it's this war of ideas, it's this diversity attempting to reach resolution. And so when you see it here in the advice, to avoid petty struggles or to focus on the battles that matter ahead rather than behind, or to simply reconcile through peaceful means what types of disagreements exist in your life, or conflicts or competitions that exist in your career, through peaceful means or through intellectual means, rather than through posturing, social manipulation, warfare of the like. So the external influences, a sort of mystic. The 2 of Pentacles is a man which juggles 2 coins, 2 ideas, 2 states in consideration at the same time. The 2 thoughts, the 2 focuses are looped with an infinity symbol. And this shows up in several different cards in the tarot, which conveys a mystical connotation or a supernatural connotation. It can mean a lot of things to each person interpreting it, but this sort of juggling act is aided by the intervention of something external. There's the tumult of a raging sea with the ships rising and falling behind it, though he's on level ground and manages to take the strife of the situation and keep it under control despite tossing and turning, really. So here we have the subtle interpretation that externally there may be an individual in your life who you see is capable of handling things, contrasting paradoxical viewpoints or lifestyle choices. It could be a man or woman, frankly. And that thing that you thought would be impossible to balance, you see an example of that achievement. And that type of person can inspire you to take the risk of a path which you hold that's stable and a path which you wish to walk which is unstable, and manage both at once and succeed in both. So keep on the lookout for an example of a person which manages to do those things that you didn't believe were possible. So your hopes and fears are represented by the Seven of Cups. That's friggin' cool. This was reversed, and this is upright. So, there's a lot going on in this card. You can interpret lots of symbols into it. The person in the foreground is completely obscured, as if in shadow, and each of these cups lies in the clouds. They have a sort of ethereal, heavenly nature to them in their swirls, and they're golden rather than simply white or blue. The cups themselves are a representation of imagination and wisdom, another type of creativity. And you can use them to represent several different things, but here these clearly represent different components of our histories. So we have the figures of beauty that we remember through our stories and statues. We have the secluded tower, the example of a pinnacle of human architecture and isolation. We have the abundance of jewels, which is the representation of man's wealth accumulation through mastery of the elements. The laurels of champions, the dragons of triumph and heroism, the villain of the story. The serpent which tempts and gives the ability to know the unknown. And then under this, we have a veiled holy artifact of some sort. And so this is that thing which resides in heaven which we're unable to know, which has great power, has great form, but is veiled from the eyes and from the hearts of people. So rather than try to describe what it is underneath, let it be a symbol that there are things that are unattainable, but still great and inspiring. So these 7 cups in heaven, or these 7 cups in the sky, or however you want to say it, to me, in this moment, with respect to your hopes and dreams, show me that you want to live a life worthy of remembering, who doesn't, and that has the features of a story well told. That you see these things in the mythos as they appear before you. You know that you have the capacity to make a difference in your career, in your marriage, in your family life. Maybe even in your religion, who knows? But your hopes and fears come that maybe we're just ordinary. Maybe we're just people that ought to be part of the machine that runs by. Maybe there isn't something special to be done in the journal and the annals of time and the history of man. Maybe you won't be in the stories. Maybe you'll be forgotten shortly after you're dead. But here, we have the possibility of a story worth telling. Taking a position in a community and seeing the abundance of that community and using it for purposes of good. So it's your hopes and your fears both, which is an interesting thing to interpret. And then the outcome of this situation altogether, the 10 of Swords. Spooky. So this is the upright, which it was read in. This is the inverted, which it was not read in. So here we have the man on the battlefield, stabbed in the back by 10 foes, left for dead, amid a darkened sky before a barren landscape. Obviously, it symbols some kind of loss, some kind of cessation. And as a 10, it's the fruition of swords. And the swords are sort of like a destructive force through intelligence and experience and knowledge. And that as things occur, the 10 of Pentacles and the 10 of Swords, in the end, it seems to me a caution that the abundance and wealth of this development may not be the ideal proximal goal. Because with that abundance of wealth and that abundance of fruition comes also many opportunities for loss, in the sense that as we acquire things and become attached to them, we so too open ourselves up to the vulnerability of destruction, loss, dissatisfaction. And so how do we reconcile those two? Huh. My battery backup triggered. I guess really with the conscious and unconscious motivations, it seems that the advice suggests to let go of those internal struggles, to allow yourself to reorient properly, in the sense that you ought to pursue the abundance and fruition of community with the temperance of self-knowledge, in the sense that you don't also, in letting those fruitions come about, rob you of the opportunity to enjoy your life through those intrinsic, through those mystical experiences that bring you from day to day with hope of a better future. So don't let that be a concern that no matter what I do, this is going to turn out bad, because honestly, no matter what anybody does, things will turn out bad. It's just a matter of the perspective of the moment and the perspective in a long course. So chin up. You've got a dark past, you've got a dark future, but on the bright side, at least you'll be together with your community. You'll know what's right and wrong while you do it, and you can avoid these types of massive failures by keeping an eye on what's important. Not the things, but the enjoyment of those things. Not the attachments, but the connection through attachment, which can be enjoyed. Neat. Well, I hope you enjoyed your tarot reading. And if not, I hope you have a better future. Have a great night.